Welcome to this introduction to the Heroes Alliance and its work with micro-credentials. This presentation gives an overview of how Heroes has developed a shared model for micro-credentials in a European context. The purpose is to show how short, documented learning pathways can strengthen lifelong learning, provide flexibility in higher education, and respond to the needs of the labor market. Heroes operates across institutions and countries to create a common system that combines academic quality, pedagogical freedom, and mutual recognition of learning. All Heroes work is based on the Joint Action Plan for Micro-Credentials. This plan, developed collectively by the Alliance's partner institutions, defines the principles, processes, and tools that form the foundation of the Heroes model for micro-credentials. It not only defines what a micro-credential is, but also how it should be designed, developed, assessed, and quality assured. The plan serves as a shared reference point, enabling institutions to work in a comparable and trustworthy way across borders. It translates European ambitions for flexible, high-quality modular learning into practical methods within universities. The Heroes model for micro-credentials is part of a wider European effort to establish a common framework for modular learning, promoting mobility, transparency, and recognition across borders. In the Joint Action Plan, micro-credentials are described as small, flexible units of certified learning that can stand as an independent learning unit or be combined into larger qualifications. The Heroes model for micro-credentials does not replace traditional higher education. It connects existing structures through shared definitions and common quality criteria. For a micro-credential to be recognized, its learning outcomes must be assessed and verified. Assessment is the element that makes a credential formal and quality assured. It confirms that the learner has achieved the described competences rather than merely participated in a course. In the Heroes model for micro-credentials, assessment is always clearly defined and carried out according to shared European criteria, ensuring comparability and mutual trust. This step transforms learning into recognized transferable achievement. Each micro-credential in the Heroes model is built around structured and transparent educational content. The content defines what is being learned, how it is taught, and how it connects to the intended outcomes. It provides the pedagogical foundation that prepares learners for assessment. All content must be clearly described and aligned with the learning outcomes that will later be evaluated. In the Heroes Alliance, the learning element of a micro-credential is called a standalone course. It is the concrete space where learning takes place, through videos, podcasts, readings, interactive tasks, collaborative projects, and many other formats. A standalone course is a clearly defined unit of learning, with specific objectives and a documented workload, but it is not assessed on its own. It is called standalone because it can exist independently. Learners may complete it without proceeding to assessment. This flexibility enables participants to engage in structured, meaningful learning without necessarily aiming for formal certification. When assessment is later added, the same course becomes the learning basis of a validated Heroes micro-credential. By defining and documenting these courses consistently, the Heroes model ensures that all learning content is transparent, shareable, and reusable across institutions. In the Heroes model, the learning pathway describes the route that connects learning to assessment. There must always be a clear and visible pathway that makes it possible to open a micro-credential, whether it consists of one or several standalone courses. This guarantees that every learner can see how learning leads to formal recognition within the Heroes model if they wish to pursue that. Over time, several standalone courses can be developed within the Alliance to support different learning routes towards the same assessment and micro-credential. Each course offers an alternative pathway, allowing learners to reach the same competencies in different ways.
This flexibility keeps the Heroes model open for future collaboration and continuous curriculum development. In some cases, access to assessment is conditional. A learner must first complete a specific standalone course or follow a defined learning pathway before the assessment becomes available. This ensures that participants have the required preparation and that assessment remains valid and reliable. Such fixed pathways are used when competencies depend on prior learning or regulated professional standards.
In the Heroes model, following the proposed learning pathway is not always mandatory. Learners who already possess the required competences may choose to go directly to assessment without completing the recommended standalone course. This option allows prior learning and professional experience to be recognized and validated through formal assessment. It also enables learners to self-curate their own learning pathway, combining different experiences and resources before seeking formal recognition. This reflects Heroes' commitment to flexibility and fairness, acknowledging what learners already know and can do.
Let's look at how terms like assessment, completion, certification, and badging are distinguished and work within the Alliance. When a learner completes a standalone course, the learning journey is finished but not yet assessed. At this point, a digital badge or equivalent record of participation is issued to show engagement and progress. The record is non-credit bearing and does not serve as formal recognition, but it provides visible evidence of completed learning activity. It can later support the learner's decision to continue towards assessment and a formal micro-credential. When the learner passes the formal assessment, the learning is validated and certified. This step transforms prior learning activity into an official, credit-bearing micro-credential. The assessment is carried out by an authorized partner within the Heroes Alliance, following shared quality standards and transparent criteria, thoroughly described in the Joint Action Plan. The issued certificate confirms verified competences and can carry ECTS depending on the scope of the learning unit. We just heard how assessment leads to certification. Let's take a closer look at how this process is organized through what we call the assessing partner model, the structure that defines who carries out assessment. The assessing partner model shows how learning and assessment connect across the Heroes environment. The assessing partner model shows how learning and assessment connect across the Heroes environment. The process begins when the learner finds a micro-credential offer online. They can either complete the standalone course to prepare for assessment or, if they already have relevant experience, skip directly to assessment. Once ready, the learner enrolls at the assessing partner institution, the authorized body responsible for conducting the assessment. Using the development tools provided to design a micro-credential, the selection of the assessing institution is embedded naturally in the development and implementation process. The assessment takes place under that institution's academic framework, ensuring formal quality assurance and comparability. The model is built on mutual trust among partners and relies on the fact that all participating universities are accredited higher education institutions operating under recognized quality assurance standards. After successful completion, the assessing partner issues the certificate, awarding the learner a recognized micro-credential. This model separates learning and assessment while keeping them connected through shared standards, making Heroes flexible and reliable across institutions. Stackable learning allows learners to build larger qualifications step by step, adding new, verified competencies over time. This can be made possible through micro-credentials, which can be combined and expanded within the Heroes framework. Here we see a learner who has completed the required learning and passed the assessment, earning a recognized micro-credential. It represents a verified competence awarded through the Heroes framework. After completing one micro-credential, the learner can continue studying through a micro-credential pathway, a structured route consisting of several connected micro-credentials. These pathways allow learners to progress gradually, expanding or deepening their competences within a specific field. Within the HEROES framework, such a pathway can lead to a full module, typically equivalent to 15 ECTS, representing a coherent block of verified learning.
The same principle continues. Several modules can form a minor, and minors can link to larger programs. Each micro-credential becomes part of a broader learning ecosystem, offering a low-threshold entry point into more complex, lifelong learning.
For stackable learning to work, ECTS calculation must be correct and transparent. In the HEROES framework, this accuracy is especially important because all micro-credentials are credit-bearing. To make this possible, HEROES applies the dual ECTS model, a clear method for dividing and documenting the credit value of learning and assessment.
In this model, the total ECTS value of a micro-credential is built from two parts, the learning element and the assessment element. The learner only sees the combined ECTS value, representing the full micro-credential. Internally, however, the system records how much of the credit comes from the learning activities and how much from the assessment. This insight allows institutions to understand and reuse learning components across subjects and domains, since the proportional balance between content and evaluation is always visible. The benefits of the dual ECTS approach are several. It ensures transparency, supports reuse, and strengthens comparability across the alliance. Let's look at how this is applied in practice using the tool developed for dual ECTS calculation. The tool helps educators calculate ECTS accurately, a solution that extends beyond micro-credentials and can be used across many types of learning design. First, we name the micro-credential, in this case as a test. Next, as developers, we enter all learning activities included in the course and estimate the time required for each. Then, all activities and elements related to assessment are added. When both parts are entered, the total workload is calculated automatically. Because the European standard defines one ECTS as equivalent to 25 to 30 hours of work, the HEROES calculator operates within this flexible range. The final ECTS value is rounded to the nearest whole or half credit as used across the alliance. Developers cannot round beyond this range or assign fewer hours than calculated. Doing so would fall outside the official ECTS definition. Finally, the calculation can be exported, saved, and reloaded for later use. We will now introduce the HEROES flowchart. Developing a micro-credential involves many interconnected steps like defining learning outcomes and designing content. At first glance, these actions can seem complex and difficult to coordinate across institutions. The HEROES model brings them together in one shared process with the HEROES flowchart based on the Joint Action Plan for Micro-Credentials. The flowchart structures the entire development process into clear sequential steps that show who does what, when, and under which quality framework, making collaboration and recognition possible across all HEROES partners.
Each step aligns directly with the principles set out in the Joint Action Plan for Microcredentials, linking institutional practice to a shared European model. The Joint Action Plan and the HEROES flowchart together provide the foundation for developing and evaluating all HEROES learning activities related to microcredentials. Two types of activities can be defined: HEROES developed and HEROES approved. Both follow the same quality standards, but they differ in how they are created. Let's look at the distinction between the two.
The first type of activity is HEROES developed. These are created jointly by at least 2 partner institutions within the alliance. There may also be additional partners or stakeholders outside the alliance. The Joint Action Plan and HEROES flowchart make it possible to develop together while ensuring that all quality standards are met.
The second type of activity is HEROES approved. This is when a single institution develops a microcredential on its own. It may be an existing offer that the institution wishes to make available across the alliance. In this case, the microcredential is simply formatted and quality assured through the Joint Action Plan. HEROES-approved activities make it possible to share local expertise and learning offers with the wider alliance by aligning them with the same standards, without limiting them to jointly developed offers.
The entire Joint Action Plan for Microcredentials is, as mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, built on the European Council recommendation on a European approach to microcredentials for lifelong learning and employability. European alignment is further ensured through collaboration among partner institutions from 9 countries who have jointly explored the room for cooperation while respecting national regulations and frameworks.
A concrete expression of this European alignment is reflected in the certification requirements based on the European standard elements to describe a microcredential. These elements specify how each credential must describe learning outcomes, workload, assessment methods, and quality assurance, ensuring transparency and comparability across Europe. In the design of both the Joint Action Plan and HEROES flowchart, these principles are operationalized in practice. Each step connects pedagogical development with administrative implementation, clearly defining when and how specific processes must be activated. This ensures that learning design, assessment, and certification function as one coherent and quality-assured system across institutions.
The HEROES Alliance remains committed to advancing an innovative and practical approach to microcredential development. A key ambition is to ensure that course developers and institutional staff have the tools and frameworks they need to design, document, and deliver high-quality learning offers. Going forward, the Alliance will continue to develop new instruments, digital tools, and supporting functions to strengthen the creation and implementation of microcredentials across Europe. So keep an eye out for the upcoming tools and initiatives from the HEROES Alliance.